Well, that's one way to win a football game.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. I'm your host, Matt Galatzan of Texas A&M Aggies on SI. Thank you so much for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network there is. Texas A&M won a football game this past weekend, Harrison. Not how I expected it to go. I don't think it's how many people expected it to go. Texas A&M falls into a 30-3 hole against the South Carolina Gamecocks after being favored by 19.5 heading into the matchup. This thing was over, it seemed like. ESPN had put up a stat that teams were 0-286 since 2004 when trailing by 27-plus points in SEC play. Not only does Texas A&M come back, they outscore South Carolina 28-0 in the second half. Marcel Reed throws after just an absolutely horrid, abysmal first half. Throws for over 400 yards in the game, finishes with a career high 439 yards. Rushes for another, 13 yards, whatever. 3 touchdown passes for Marcel Reed after the 2 first half interceptions. Casey Concepcion goes off. Ashton Bethel Roman goes off. Isaiah Williams makes a heck of an impact. Nate Borkacher makes a heck of an impact. Harrison, it looked like this thing was going to be a 28-point third quarter for Texas A&M. They held South Carolina to under, I think it was 76 total yards they had in the second half. What happened? How did this happen? This is the biggest comeback in Texas A&M history.
I have questions about how the heck the first half happened. In all honesty, like that was everything you thought could go wrong and more went wrong. And it just kept compounding on the other. And it's like, holy crap. Matt, there was a point in this football game where I texted you, what do you do at quarterback? Not something we've talked about at all this year. Because it was after the second interception where he overthrows the guy on the dig. Just a terrible, terrible miss. I'm like, holy crap. You're bordering on what do we do at quarterback? Do you let him play through it? Do you bring him out, try and reset his, get his mind reset and put him back in later? Like, what do you do? It was bad. Everything that could possibly be a nightmarish start was a nightmare. And man, for somebody who covers a different program that lost to South Carolina, that was an unranked team with a losing record, it looked a lot like that game. Not the 28-point deficit, but that start in terms of turnovers, a defense in South Carolina playing like had his hair on fire, fired offensive coordinator, basically just trying to right the ship and save Shane Beamer's season. Whew. I got up to go prepare to cover another game a little after the second half, and Matt, I made a mistake of thinking that game was over. I think we all did. I didn't think the inevitable would happen after the inevitable happened in the first half.
Yeah, I sure thought it was over. I was sitting in a tent with, not like a camping tent. I was at a football game, sitting in the tent because we have a couple guys there for Texas A&M Aggies on SI on the weekend, so I don't have to go to every single game anymore. But I'm sitting there watching it, 4 or 5 other people waiting for this other game to start, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, this thing is toast!" Like Texas A&M got down 17-3, and then next thing you knew, it was 24-3, or somewhere around there. And the people in my tent were like, if South Carolina scores on this drive, or if Texas A&M doesn't score on this drive, or like every single time, like as the second quarter progressed after that disastrous start, it's like, well, if this doesn't happen, this game is over. Well, it happened. Well, now if this happens, this game's really going to be over. And that happened too.
Put a fork in them. They're done.
They were done. They had or South Carolina had a 97% chance to win that game at halftime. Texas A&M fought back. Marcel Reed got dialed in. They were explosive. I think the South Carolina offensive coordinator ran, the same few plays in the first half and then didn't really know what to do with the lead in the second half. It seemed like the offense just got completely out of sorts, and the Texas A&M defense deserves a lot of credit for that. Absolutely. They balled out in the second half. But the South Carolina offensive coordinator had no answer for it. It's like he got so worked up and didn't know what to do with the situation that he just kind of fumbled things away. Lenora Sellers made some awful decisions, and Texas A&M capitalized on those decisions. Even then, after all of that, South Carolina had a chance to win the game. They had the ball, final 2 minutes of the game, going down with a chance to score. Texas A&M defense stands up, sacks him 3 times in a row. I had a third segment in this show that was going to be, is there any possible way to beat this team? But now we'll just talk about it right now instead. This team seems unkillable because now they have won games in every single manner you could possibly expect them to win a football game. They've won a tight one on the road in a hostile environment with a game-winning drive. They've won a defensive battle against Auburn. They withstood an upset alert against Arkansas. They've beaten the piss out of almost everybody else. And now they've come back from seemingly impossible depths to win another game. This is the kind of season that I think championship teams have. The real championship teams have seasons like this. Outside of like 2019 LSU, who just laid everybody down in the road and ran over them. This is kind of how you give you prepare yourself for the college football playoff and for adversity and for tough situations. Like teams like Ohio State, they're just running over everybody. And they haven't really had to face any adversity. Indiana's had to face adversity a couple times. That's good. But Texas A&M has won games in every which way you could possibly imagine. I think that's going to prepare them very well, not only for their final regular season showdown against Texas in a couple weeks, but for their college football playoff run and probably for the SEC championship, unless they somehow manage to finally, it all finally falls apart in Austin, which I highly doubt after what I watched in Athens this past weekend.
Yeah, I will say this. The SEC championship race looks a lot more interesting than it did a week ago. I will say that. It looks a lot more interesting. But I don't want to go too deep into terms of individual performances because obviously we got game balls to hand out in the final segment of today's show. But sometimes kind of like you said, there's just these teams each and every year, it kind of feels like, that just feel untouchable. Just have like the grace of God on their side. And apparently that was A&M this weekend, because I don't know how much more cooked you can be than they were on Saturday. Like, it was bad. I mean, Matt, I even put out a tweet. Is A&M cursed? Like, it was after the second Marcel Reed interception. They're down, I think, 17-3 at that point, and he just sails one, airmails it. I'm like, wow. You're out here putting the 1-800 number up on Twitter. Like, just disaster mode. And crazy part is, Matt, I feel like they almost just, as a program, like 8-4, battered Aggie syndrome just kicked in, because you're down 17-3, and your athletic Twitter account puts out a picture of the damn college football playoff trophy. And everybody and their mama is up here quote tweeting that, replying to that, just left, and right. And now, after it looks like a total clown show, looks like Beamer in the damn tunnel just taunting at the crowd up 28 to or whatever that score was at half.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
You turned it into, hey, we were just showing everybody, hey, we're about to come back and just make this improbable comeback. So it was a roller coaster of emotions for somebody who's not even a Texas A&M fan, just somebody who watches college football and analyzes it. I mean, every single possible emotion. They're cooked. Oh, they're really cooked. Oh, they're screwed. To wait, there's no way this is happening. To wait, oh my God, they just did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
I mean, look, Matt. For a little bit there was you were down 17-3. You just announced that you had signed your head coach to a contract extension, and for 30 minutes of that football game, it looked like Jimbo Fisher was back in charge of that program. I thought we were going to come on the show, and Matt's opening segment was going to be, what did A&M do given another contract to Jimbo Fisher? Thought that was going to be the opening segment. Then the second half happened.
Yeah, and I think the news of the Elko extension right before the first half of that football game was
not great, Bob.
Was wild. It's like, did that play a role in the way that they're playing right now? Like, I don't know what's happening. Everybody was coming up with all sorts of excuses as to why they were playing that way. I mean, and they were getting roasted, deservedly so, on Twitter. Posting that picture when you're down 17-3 is a wild choice. That being said, there was also some other ones out there, like I think Josh Pate posted a
pucker meter.
Well, he posted the pucker meter, but he also posted a picture of Sarah McLaughlin.
Sarah McLaughlin.
Sarah McLaughlin. Sorry, I had a little twisted tongue there. Sarah McLaughlin with the dog charity thing and Reveille, holding Reveille. It's like, I mean, it was getting ugly, and then they just pulled it out. It was one of the most incredible comebacks that I've ever seen, and it was just furious. Absolute furious comeback. It was like they just were like, oh, okay, it's time to go, F these guys up now. And they did it. And then after that, it got real tight again. I was a little bit concerned that it was all going to be for naught, but they pulled it out. They remain undefeated. They are 10-0 for the first time since 1992. They are in the driver's seat for the SEC championship game. They have a chance to go bury the Texas Longhorns a couple weeks from now, make it to Atlanta for the first time since joining the SEC, win their first SEC championship, and potentially head into the college football playoff as a number 1 or a number 2 seed. If I had told you all of that was still on the table at the end of the first half, you would have called me nuts. But here we are. And when we come back, we are going to talk about Shane Beamer and his antics during that game. And he just kind of got a comeuppance. So we'll talk about that and a little bit more when we come back from this next break. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making a late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Shane Beamer is a clown, bro. I mean, I've always liked the guy. I've always thought he's a nice guy. Seemed like a good coach. After the first quarter, was it 17-3 at the end of the first quarter? I want to say it was.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
They're interviewing him on the sideline. I don't remember who the sideline reporter was, but she asked the question, how do you, are you surprised that your team has been able to jump out on top of the number 3 team in the country to this extent? Or I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And he ostensibly says, no, we beat this team by 24 last year. We're not surprised at all. And I was like, okay. Like, that's one way to put it. He's not entirely wrong, but it's the first quarter. Why don't we pump the brakes a little bit? Second quarter happens. Nick Harbor gets that big touchdown pass where he, comes up a little hobbled, runs into the tunnel. The dumbass Texas A&M cop elbows him, gets in his way, knocks him out of the way. That goes viral too. It was a great day for viral stories on Texas A&M Aggies on the side, by the way. Everybody should go check them out. But, and then you go into the locker room, 30-3, and Beamer's walking off the sidelines, waving his hands in the air, pumping up the Gamecock crowd. Just all kinds of antics from this guy throughout the entire first half. And then, I don't know if Elko saw that when they were walking off the field or if somebody told him what he said at halftime after the first quarter. But, man, something changed in that locker room. I don't know what it was. They haven't released the halftime speech. Elko said the halftime speech wasn't anything special. It was just like, hey, guys, let's get our shit together and let's go win this. He downplayed it, but I mean, I don't know what flipped the switch for Texas A&M, but I have a feeling that Shane Beamer and everything that he did during that game had a little bit to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I always wonder what gets relayed from the broadcast. I'm sure there's people. I know. Well, I don't know, but you can tell over the years, like someone's watching the broadcast on these staffs at some point. I don't know if they have a headset. Someone's watching. Someone's always watching. And coaches aren't supposed to have, phones on the sidelines during games, but who's stopping them from looking at it, at halftime? Who's stopping players from looking at their phones during halftime? Like, it happened. So I'm sure something like that played a role in this a little bit. I'm sure someone's aware of it. I wouldn't be surprised, Matt. I haven't gone and looked for it. I wouldn't be surprised if Elko's already been asked about it and had a statement about the answer from Beamer at the end of the first half. And then, the whole doing like a victory lap coming off the field at halftime is so corny to me. I get it. Like when you're at home and you want those guys to be loud, but act like you've been there before, man. Like, I get it. You're in a rough season. You're up on the number 3 team in the nation. You want your crowd to be behind it. You want your guys to be behind it. But, man, don't celebrate like you won the game before you've won the game. It's the easiest way to get beat. And I don't ever want to hear it again from Coach. And I already heard it again on Monday. Well, I heard it last Monday, too. Don't tell me that you're not thinking about last year in terms of if you beat this team last year, this year's team's not the same team. Because you got a head coach out here saying, hey, we beat this team by 25 points last year. No, we're not surprised. Like, it's not the same A&M team. You're not the same South Carolina team. You're 5 wins less than what that South Carolina team had last year. So, kind of ironic in that case.
I mean, Shane Beamer might have gotten himself fired this past weekend.
It's a clown. I mean, yeah, it was a total clown show.
This is high school stuff, Harrison. You're taught well before you get to college football as a player. Game's not over till it's over. I remember when I was in high school, we were playing Ennis in a state championship game. Ennis was really good back then. They had Graham Harrell and one of the best teams in the country, these receivers who were amazing. They were heavily favored in the eyes of all the media against my high school, playing them in a state championship, or I guess it was a state semifinal. And, Matthew Stafford was the quarterback. The legend of Jake Felt was a thing. But we're beating the piss out of this team. Absolutely beating the piss out of this team. Actually, this was before Stafford. Either way, not before Stafford. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, doesn't matter. Stafford was there. We're beating the piss out of this team. We roll into halftime, and every single player on the team, stay focused. This game's not over. Stay focused. I think high school was 12-minute quarters at the time. Maybe it's 15. I can't remember. I haven't been to a high school game in a while, but stay focused. 30 more minutes. And now you got a college coach in an SEC team, oh, we got this. Oh, look at what we're doing, guys. Look at what we're doing. You don't do that. You don't do that at all. You tell your team, hey, we're up. You can look at the scoreboard, but this is a 0-0 game coming out of halftime. What just happened in the first half doesn't matter. We need to get back out there, and we need to do it again. We need to pretend that we're behind even. We need to keep our foot on these guys' throats. We can't let up. And what did South Carolina do? They played the most conservative brand of football that I have ever seen out of an SEC team with a lead. They weren't trying to do anything at all. Even when A&M scores. And then up, 3 and out, punt, score. Up, 3 and out, punt, score. They still were just like, oh, we're playing with a lead. It was ridiculous. Shane Beamer deserves all of the fault. He should lose his job because that is absolutely egregious. Absolutely egregious. You can't do any of those things, especially giving up a 27-point lead, which had not been done since 2004, when you're already 3-6. Unbelievable stuff. All right. Whew, sorry, got a little heated there on Shane Beamer. When we come back, we're going to hand out our game balls, who we thought was really integral in Texas A&M's historic comeback, and give the guys these flowers they deserve. So stick with us after this break, and we'll be right back. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually, getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pull up the Game Time app, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games for as low as $25. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. Well, I don't really know who to give the game balls to here in this comeback, Harrison, because it's really hard to grade a game like this, because when you play so bad in the first half, it affects your overall, the overall view of the game. But hey, as bad as Marcel Reed played in the first half of this game, and he was awful. No getting around it. He was awful in the first half. He came out in the second half, and I'll be damned if he didn't look like a Heisman Trophy winner. That dude was slinging it, Harrison.
I just tried to do some quick math looking at the stat broadcast from the second half. I believe, if I counted correctly, he only had 4 incompletions in the second half on 20 attempts. So we're talking 16 of 20 in the second half. And I don't know what he had in the first half in terms of incompletions, but that's by all means. I mean, just the response from him in terms of playing your worst half of football as humanly possible, it felt like, to come back out, give your team not only just a chance, but to win the game late, even after you turn it over on the goal line or inside your own 5, like to just walk off the field that day with a win is a good day. And you got to give credit to him. Absolutely. I think you have to give a game ball because he battled through a crap ton of adversity and found a way to help, right the ship and help A&M win this game. But aside from him on offense, this is a name we haven't talked about much in terms of this segment this season. Ashton Bethel Roman. I butchered it the first time, but I got it right the second time. Had his coming out party. I believe this is a career day for the guy. Over 100 yards receiving, right only behind Casey Concepcion. Had 4 receptions for 139 yards with a touchdown. He had a key drop early in that game. I want to say it was the second half. He dropped one. Should have been I want to say it was a touchdown. Then he makes up for it later or on that same drive, finds the end zone for him. Talk about dealing with adversity. That's not an easy thing to come back from. On a day where Mario Craver didn't get going, just had a reception for 6 yards, and A&M's offense is down in the depths. You need someone to step up. You didn't have a run game. It was legit just the passing game because you had to throw for a lead. You had to throw to get back into the game. And Ashton Bethel Roman played his absolute tail off in that game. And you know, you look at this receiving core after Saturday, and you're like, all right, like maybe there's a three-headed monster there. Maybe you got 3 guys that you can depend on, and all 3 have stepped up in big spots and made some big catches for you down the stretch.
Yeah, I really wish that we could pull up just the first half stats so you could see the discrepancy there. Because he like Marcel was way off in the first half. I mean, he was missing everyone. Dudes were dropping passes too. Hell, Bethel Roman dropped one. But you got to give this team credit for sticking it out, readjusting at halftime, and really putting everything that had happened in that first half completely on the back burner. It's like, I don't know if you've ever seen Ted Lasso, but one of the things that Ted Lasso always tells his players in that show, be a goldfish. Goldfishes have no memory. Like they have the shortest, memory span of all the animals in the world or whatever. And they were goldfish. They completely forgot that first half happened, and they put it all behind them, and they were able to come out and just completely turn things around. Reuben Owens was off. They were never really able to get a ground game going, which credits South Carolina. But that passing game really, really took over. I want to give my defensive game ball though to Taurean York. That dude battled the entire game. He had 1.5 tackles for loss. He led the team with 8 total tackles. And he really kept the intensity going for that defense, especially in the third quarter when they had to be lights out. Taurean York led the charge there, and he was a major reason why they were able to do what they did.
Yeah, and that you talk about a guy being the leader of that unit. Taurean York's been that for, I guess, 2 years now, Matt, in terms of playing major snaps for them. Had another big game on Saturday. I want to go ahead and maybe give mine to Damian Sanford. I did three times this year. This guy's, I mean, both the linebackers have played at a high level. Sanford obviously been thrown in there due to injury. I just I just blanked on his name. Obviously thrown in there due to injury, having to play a big role in the Texas A&M defense. I think Tyler Onyedem also deserving of potentially a game ball, Matt, here. You see some guys with tackles for a loss you don't typically see for recording tackles for a loss. It tale of two halves. And even after the first half, Matt, I don't feel like the defense played too terrible. The major turning point in this game was the turnovers in the first half. Like, defense really didn't really play a bad game of football. And I know that's crazy to say when you give up 30 points, but they're putting some really bad spots. It kind of reminded me of the Georgia-Texas game in Austin last year, where a really good Texas defense just had turnovers on their own end, and were being asked to, hold them to at least a field goal when they're already 30 yards away from their own end zone. Like, just an impossible position to be in. And considering the circumstances, played really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the drive chart for South Carolina. Open with a field goal. They get a touchdown on their next drive. Texas A&M misses a field goal. They punt, but then Texas A&M, they force a Texas A&M fumble, and they return that for a touchdown. Then Texas A&M holds them to field goal, punt, interception, punt, and then they get that one play 80-yarder to Nick Harbor, and then Texas A&M turns it over on their own end, and South Carolina gets a field goal. So it really wasn't a bad performance. You're absolutely right by that Texas A&M defense in the first half. They were just put in really bad positions by the offense. They did what they could. And when the offense cleaned it up in the second half, the Texas A&M defense was able to respond. So I'm giving really the entire defense, led by Taurean York, a game ball. But one final game ball. Mike Elko. The way that he was able to reinvigorate that football team at halftime and get them to continue to believe that they could push through it and they could pull off the biggest comeback in school history, that deserves a ton of credit. And that is why he got his new 6-year extension that's going to keep him in College Station through 2031, which ironically, if my memory serves, was the same year that the original Jimbo Fisher extension ran out.
Oh boy.
So, but yeah, Mike Elko, hell of a coaching job there in the second half and at halftime by him. Great job by the defense in the second half. Hell of a job by Marcel Reed, Ashton, Bethel, Roman, and KC Concepcion. Game balls all around for this football team in the second half. But
maybe not the kicker.
Yeah, maybe not the kicker. Randy Bond had some issues. But that's okay. That's going to do it for another episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you so much for making Locked On Aggies your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy breaks down the best conference in college sports, from the rivalries to the championship and every game in between. Find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the #1 sports podcast network. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our podcast, download our podcast. We're on every major podcast platform. Follow me on X at Matt Galatzan. Follow Harrison on X at Harrison Reno. And follow Texas A&M Aggies on SI. And we'll see you next time. That cop, man. That cop. What a clown. Also Beamer.